Okay, this is the History of Planet X, segment 1. There will be two segments. This is the ancient history, and then there will be the more modern history, which is will be segment 2. Um, let's start with the age of the universe. 46 trillion years old. Now, I take this information where I can get it. It's not all in Zeta Talk, because they focus very much on the pole shift in Planet X and other factors. Um, but some of my information is taken from, actually, from this page here, right here. And this was, I believe it's a channeling from Raphael. And so, my viewpoint is not just Zeta Talk, or it's not just my own thinking, although I compile it with my own mind. But I like to draw from many different sources, and of course, in fact, you have to if you want to get the best possible picture. Now, on that point, this piece is really about viewing the universe and our solar system and Earth's history from the standpoint of from looking at it from a Planet X pole shift perspective, because when you start to do the research, these numbers, 46 trillion years old, nobody can understand what that number is. But which brings up the whole point here is I try to give a broad brush stroke, a big overview, and that's my intention. So even though it says here 13.7 billion years, that's just human science, and we all know the human science is less than 500 years old, or thereabouts, and the science today, of course, is corporate. It's not the freewheeling science that we had back in the 17, 18, and 19th century. Beginning of the 19th century, well, actually, the beginning of the 20th century, it was then that the government started to put clamps down on true knowledge about really what our universe and our solar system was made up of. And today it's just a terrible set of concepts that have been designed to keep the public of the earth only focused on making widgets and working to pay the governments and to pay the banks and to support the lifestyle of the wealthy, and the eventually the money, most of the money that is made and generated finds its way into the hands of the extremely unspeakably wealthy, of which we think there are about something about 20 families on the face of the earth that control the money supply and control what we are told, and control what we are how the textbooks are designed, and what information goes into them, and what the university teaches. And we all know that new discoveries that break models are subject to either to complete repression, or they are either bought out by either the oil companies or some corporation or the drug companies, um, to so they can keep the public ignorant, and just and most of them are not. Most of us are not ignorant. What we are is we're overworked. It's what we are. We are trying to get by and have a life, and meanwhile we got to pay that mortgage or pay that rent. And of course, many of us are fooled into thinking we need a vacation, and now we spend all our money on a vacation somewhere in the world. And then I'm talking about the lower middle class. Um, uh, so I could go on. That's another story. But let's get back to what I want to talk about here, and that is the history, the ancient history of Planet X. Okay, here is conventional science's opinion of the expansion of the universe from the Big Bang. I think it's universally understood that there was an emergence at one point, and is called the Big Bang. Here you have what science calls the relic radiation from the Big Bang. Now that is more closely represented here, which is has different names. The background radiation, and the radiation produces 3 degrees Kelvin, which is 3 degrees above absolute zero. The dark is probably our absolute zero, and the bright points are probably 3 degrees Kelvin. So this is represents the universe, in fact, as far as man is able to measure it. And so this would be according to human science, is the leftover radiation from the bang. So now let's move to some interesting facts here. We know that conventional science says it's 14.5 billion years old, but we're saying it's 46 trillion years old. Planet X, like all the other planets in our and stars in our universe, came out of the Big Bang, and soon, once it was formed, by the way, it never ignited. Now, sometimes stars will ignite and become a bright burning star. Well, Planet X never actually attained the critical mass to ignite, so it remained a brown dwarf from the very start. So out of the Big Bang came Planet X with the rest of them, and eventually began from almost its inception, when it formed. My best guess here is that it started into its sling orbit between our sun's binary twin, 68 trillion miles away, is not visible because it's a dark, unlit star, and Planet X orbits between the two suns because as it I know I've covered this before, but I've got new information on this. So when Planet X swings out from our sun's binary twin, the gravitational force from the sun picks it up. Now I've said this before, and obviously it zips through and survives all that and maintains its orbit because it's an extremely heavy planet or dwarf star. So when it gets out past Earth, causes the pole shift. It comes out way out into probably into interstellar space, which is beyond Earth's heliosphere. Goes out, and so when it's out here, it has 2 gravity attractions: the sun's binary twin and the sun. So that's what's swinging it back in. Now it's also said, I learned that it'll be 575 or so. Um, that's 575 years, yes. So it's 575 years after the pole shift. Now, I thought it was 7 years, but it turns out it's going to be a very long time before Planet X returns. So it's 575 years. So when Planet X is out here, it has two gravity attractions. So that's why it swings back and it's locked into this. And then, of course, out here it starts its return. And when it passes around the sun's binary twin, repulsion force keeps it away from clashing into the dark star, and again way out into interstellar space. And then now out here it has again two gravity attractions, and it pulls itself back. So that's why it maintains that swing. You see, the gravity attraction between the two suns increases, doubles out here, and so it's slingshots out and dithers in here. So that's enough on that. I've covered that before. So okay, so we have some ages here. The Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy, is 1.9 trillion years old. Our sun is 1.7 trillion years old. Now, I couldn't actually find any channeling or any information about the alternative information about the age of our solar system. But when you consider that one orbit of our galaxy centered by our solar system takes 225 million years, that it makes our solar system a lot older than 225 million years. I'm suspecting it's much older than conventional science thinks. It's about 5 billion, something in that nature. But at any rate, let's call it 5 billion years old. Earth was slowly formed from a gaseous state 646 billion years. The gaseous state, it was 646 billion years old, and it came into a solid 5 billion years ago. Now here's some interesting information. The last passage of Planet X occurred 3,494 years ago. Notice that's different from what Zeta Talk says, which is 3,657 and 56. Now that's okay, because you wouldn't expect a planet to travel trillions of miles and expect it to return exactly at the same time, because when a planet or a dwarf star is out in interstellar space, there's going to be all kinds of influences slowing it up, speeding it up, or slowing it down. So here's an interesting thing I discovered, that Venus is a new addition to our solar system. The Mayans call it the birth of Venus, and what happened to Venus is it was a planet in another solar system, and as Planet X passed by, it was dislodged from that solar system and followed Planet X through its sling orbit by 130 years. And so I did the math. This was in 1998. So I did the math, and so Venus has been in our solar system since 2,919 years ago. And as I said, the Mayan astronomers called it the birth of Venus. So now let's come to our moon here. Our moon used to be a larger planet that was from another solar system near the ecliptic of the Milky Way. It also got picked up by Planet X, But it was broken up in the process, and it was reshaped by meteor strikes over hundreds of years, and found it, and came along with PX during a passage. Now this passage probably, well, we don't know exactly when it was, but it was many millions of years ago, and fell into orbit around Earth. So when you look up at the moon, you're looking up at another planet, most of another planet that was a PX moon for a while, but was also a planet from another solar system. And the moon happens to be 4.5 million years older than Earth. So here we come to the massive solar system-wide disaster that occurred about 3.9 million years ago. This event took place within the space, the orbital space between Mars and Jupiter. We know it as the asteroid belt. Now there were 3 planets that were orbiting along with Earth in this area at the time. And what happened is that one of the PX moons collided with one of the planets. It may have collided with one of the moons of one of the planets, but this set up a chain reaction where slowly it got worse and worse. Every time a planet was hit, it changed sometimes it would break up the planet or a moon. So it just got worse and worse, and eventually all the planets in the 3 planets were broken up into pieces. An interesting point I discovered is that, as we know, planets, especially larger planets, these planets, by the way, were larger than Earth, that were broken up. They have a molten core, and when an asteroid or a moon of sufficient size is able to break through the mantle, the cooled, harder outer mantle, and get through and split the planet, where some of them, the molten core is ejected into space, it cools, and of course they become missiles of death. This is a zeta talk, cut that off, zeta talk. And so that's how it progressed. But if a moon was to bounce off of a planet and not split the crust, then the planet survives. Now this is what happened to Earth. Now the Sumerians referred to Earth as Tiamat, and so Tiamat was struck very hard by a Planet X moon, and was driven out of this area and wobbled slowly into the 3rd position from the sun. Now when Tiamat was contacted by a moon, when it was hit by a moon, it created a huge basin, which is now the Pacific Ocean. And another interesting fact about Tiamat when it was in this area, I'm calling Earth Tiamat when it was in the asteroid belt area. It helps to identify it from Earth in the 3rd position where it is now. Backtracking a little bit, Earth was the 5th planet from the sun when it was in the asteroid belt area, that is to say Tiamat. So at that time, Earth was mainly a water planet. So the striking at Earth and removing it from the 5th position removed much of the water from Earth's body. So when Tiamat was hit, wobbled into the third planet from the Sun orbital position, and it became Earth with a huge dent in the side of it. So now here's some science and conventional science on this regarding the asteroid belt. There's a gentleman by the name of Heinrich Obers who calculated that he thought the asteroid belt. He noticed asteroids out there, so he investigated and just virtually discovered the asteroid belt. And he did some calculations and came up with the original assumption that a planet exploded in the asteroid belt area. Now, this was in 1802. Now, if you go to Wikipedia, you'll find that concept of the original assumption of a planet exploding in the asteroid belt area between Mars and Jupiter was abandoned and fell in disfavor. This would be the Planet X cover-up, in my opinion, because what would make a planet explode? They don't want the public knowing that a planet exploded. So now what they substituted the exploding planet concept is with a silly excuse, and they call it a collapsed cloud of interstellar dust that condensed to a disk of material, somehow finding itself into orbit in this area. Which, of course, that concept has got the NASA written all over it. So it's part of the Planet X cover-up. So now there is also another law called Titus-Bode law that predicts that a planet should be orbiting where the asteroid belt is, based on calculations and orbital dynamics. So there you go. There's Bode's law supporting the fact that there were planets in this area in the asteroid belt. Now, okay, so we had the Great Collision. We had the destruction of the 3 planets that were there, and Earth was moved from the 5th position to the 3rd position, and I think that's about it. An interesting note here is that Earth's oval shape is the result of the periodic visits of Planet X. I couldn't find out exactly why. This was Zeta Talk information here. I'm suspecting that Earth comes under a great deal of stress when during the passage of Planet X, and there's a gravity pull, and that's what's causing the oval shape. So there you have it. Now, the last little bit here, I calculated that there has been a little over 1,000 passages of Planet X that have occurred since the original Great Solar System calamity 3.9 million years ago. And now more on that. I have more detail on that in the next segment. And that's about it. And I'll just stop it right here. And so the next segment will be on the more modern history of Planet X and Earth. So we'll move on to that next.